Have you ever noticed how some musicians make their songs sound instantly captivating with just a few chords? Well, after playing through these books, I studied hits and built a collection of over 250 chord progressions. And I started to notice how some songwriters use the same patterns over and over again in their records. And today I'm going to be sharing 3 exciting chord progressions that sound complex and emotional, but they're also simple and you can master them this afternoon, even if you're a beginner. Look, I spent a lot of years playing some boring patterns until these progressions started to show me how complex sounds actually really just come from small progressions that you piece together. So let's dive in. So for our first progression, I want to show you something with a very beautiful emotional quality, and it sounds more advanced than it actually is. So this chord progression is for Lady in My Life, the intro, and it was written by the late great songwriter Rod Temperton from Michael Jackson's Thriller album. And the 3 chords that I'm using here are the A major 9, the D minor 7, and the E minor 9. Now, what makes this progression sound so wonderful? There's a few things. First, we're using a concept called a borrowed chord. So what exactly is that? Well, sometime back in the good old days, a smooth brother named Rob Chillin, he needed a chord that could make the ladies feel something. These are his words. And his song was written in A minor, and he didn't like his options because all the other cool cats used those chords. So he wanted to stand out. Rob decided to borrow a chord from his neighboring key, and that's an A major. Now the song is in the key of A minor, but in this section, we're using an A major. You hear that lift and emotion before settling to the D minor? That contrast creates an immediate emotional interest. Second, we're using extended chords. So instead of playing the A major, we're playing the A major 9. Instead of playing the D minor, we're playing the D minor 9. Instead of playing the E minor, we're playing the E minor 9. And that's how not to do it. Just making sure you're still with me. So A major 9, D minor 9, E minor 7. These extra notes add colors without making the chords harder to play. Now the third aspect is the chord rhythm. Greg Fillinganes played the keys on his record and he used anticipation. So in simple terms, he played some chords earlier. Here is the progression without anticipations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we'll play with the anticipations. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me show you how versatile this progression can be. So let's change the key and the groove. So that new groove was inspired by Ordinary People by John Legend. And this next groove is actually inspired by another legendary John. Let's check this one out. So that groove was inspired by Imagine by John Lennon. So you can do a lot of different things with one chord progression. You just change the key, you can change the groove. And a lot of times when you take a progression that you like, and then you combine it with another groove from another song that you like, that's a technique called borrowing and combining, which I picked up from reading the Songwriters Workshop Harmony by Jimmy Kachulis. So for this chord progression, I'm going to actually go and open up my personal chord progression database inside of Notion. It's so beautiful. Sometimes I don't even play music. I just stare at it. Just a side note, whenever you come across a good chord progression, you should save it somewhere that you can quickly access for future ideas. Now, I used to write mine down in Apple Notes, which was about as organized as my sock drawer. I'd be like, where's that amazing progression I found last month? And then I would end up scrolling through 47 grocery lists and random thoughts that I had at 3 a.m. And I even found these socks in those notes somehow. Don't ask. So a few years ago, I became a Notion procrastinator. A Notion user, and I started building up this database. Now it's got over 250 progressions in it, and I've included a link in the description if you want a copy. It'll save you years of research, and you can customize it to your liking. So check that out. So the progression that I want to share now is a minor 1 to a major 4. And like I said, this is a Dorian progression. And in the key of B flat Dorian, this is a B flat minor to a E flat major. Now I'm also adding the sevenths to this. We have a B flat minor 7, and then we're moving to the E flat dominant 7. Now this is actually the chord progression for Bad by Michael Jackson. And what makes it sound so advanced without being hard to play? For starters, we are moving from a minor chord, which feels kind of sad and mysterious, and then going right to a major chord, which kind of gives it more of a bright and open feeling. And then when you add those sevenths in, it's kind of giving it a bluesy sound, which is pretty awesome because we're basically playing for the Michael Jackson song, this is moving at the pace of a dance record and has the vibe of a dance record, but it's also kind of touching on some blues as well. One of the things that I really like about the minor 1 to the 4 progression is that you can just groove off of that and have a full song and have a really good vibe. And there's a lot of songs out here that use just those 2 chords to create amazing records. So let's move on to the third progression. So for progression 3, I'm going to revisit my chord progression database inside of Notion, and we're going to search for another Dorian progression, and I'll explain why in a minute. So we have the minor 2, minor 3, and the minor 5. And in the key of B flat Dorian, that is a C minor to a D minor to a F minor. So what I like about this progression is the ascending quality. You feel like it's rising. And then the F minor wants to go home to the B flat minor. And that's actually the chorus, that's actually the pre-chorus for Bad by Michael Jackson. So we're taking 2 small chord progressions and bringing them together. And that's what happened on that record. So you have So you start with the minor 1 to the 4, and then you play that for a few cycles, and then you go over to the second progression, the minor 2 to the minor 3 to the minor 4, and then you play that, and then you cycle back to the minor 1 to the minor 4. You have a full record right there. And that's what I really like about these small progressions. You can learn simple progressions and then start to have fun with them by adding groove, and then also taking 2 small ones and then running them next to each other to give you different song sections, or you can take 2 small progressions and bring them together for a section. and then go into another section with just one of those two, and you have a full record. And that was the thing that I picked up from studying a lot of different songs, and that really just opened up my mind on how progressions work. They're not as overwhelming now that I understand that small ones come together to make really cool, awesome sounds. So I just hooked you up with 3 great chord progressions and ways to vary them more. But this presents a new problem. See, the big thing that holds a lot of people back from writing and playing freely is remembering all of the great chord progressions that they come across. But that doesn't have to be you. And in fact, you can easily learn progressions up to 4 times faster than most people. And I explain how in this video right here.